Welcome, you incredible perceptive souls. Let's face it, some minds aren't just processing information, they're literally reshaping the world around them. You know who you are. Your way of thinking doesn't quite fit into the prepackaged boxes society tries to shove you into. Instead, you're bending those boxes, turning them inside out, maybe even setting them ablaze just for kicks. And that's precisely why so many people find you difficult. The numbers don't lie. Genuinely gifted individuals make up a small percentage of the population. But the impact you have goes far beyond statistics. It's not just about some high IQ score, it's about how your insights cut through the illusions that keep others comfortable, exposing the ordinary for what it is. Think about it. While most people are still stuck on dial-up, you're already operating on a fiber optic connection 5 steps ahead, anticipating the next move. That's why you get those whispers behind your back, why you're labeled different, or even accused of being too much. What they're really saying is, your mind unsettles me because it refuses to play by the rules I depend on to feel safe. This isn't about inflating egos or turning anyone into a superhero. It's about digging into the reasons why your unique brilliance can be so jarring to people. Why your intelligence sometimes feels like a mirror they desperately avoid looking into. Because when you walk into a room, you don't just offer answers. You ignite questions that challenge their entire sense of self. And make no mistake, they'll try to brush it off, roll their eyes, or act like you're simply overthinking things. But deep down, they know the truth. You're not overthinking, you're thinking in dimensions they haven't even begun to explore. And that, my friends, is what truly shakes the world. Number 1. Your mind is a free agent resistant to programming. Your mind is a free agent resistant to programming. Let's be blunt. The world is designed to keep people compliant, predictable, and easy to manage. Schools don't just teach subjects, they subtly enforce conformity. Media doesn't just inform, it skillfully shapes perspectives. Culture doesn't just entertain, it subtly conditions behaviors. And yet somehow you've navigated all of that without falling into the trap. You didn't swallow the script. You questioned it, dissected it, and discarded the parts that didn't resonate with your inner truth. That refusal to blindly accept makes you a disruptor, and most people simply won't understand it. When others speak, you hear the subtle programming woven into their words. When leaders deliver speeches, you see the manipulation cleverly disguised between the lines. Where most people simply nod their heads and fall in line, you pause, tilt your head, and think, something doesn't quite add up here. And it's that simple act of questioning, that unwillingness to blindly absorb, that rattles the system. Because the moment even one person refuses to be programmed, it threatens the entire edifice built on compliance. People often equate intelligence with accumulating facts or using sophisticated vocabulary. But your intelligence is different. It's independent. It's not tethered to societal norms. It doesn't bow to the loudest voice in the room. And that's precisely what leaves people so uneasy. They can't predict your beliefs because you don't adhere to the approved script. They can't sway you with popular opinion because your moral compass doesn't point to the crowd. They can't lure you with false authority because you've glimpsed behind the curtain and seen just how flimsy it truly is. That's why your intelligence is often mistaken for arrogance or rebellion. It's not that you want to fight every rule or challenge every concept. It's that you simply cannot force yourself to believe things that ring false to your core. You refuse to contort your mind to fit into their comfortable little boxes. That very resistance makes you stand out even when you try to blend in. The irony is that many secretly admire this trait. They might never admit it, but deep down they envy your ability to think for yourself. They've spent their lives following preset programs while you've been writing your own code. And that, more than anything, is why your intelligence makes people uneasy. It's living proof that independent thought still exists and that truth cannot be manufactured. Number 2. You carry ancestral knowledge encoded in your DNA. You carry ancestral knowledge encoded in your DNA. This explains why your intelligence feels so unique, almost inexplicable. It's not something you merely learned in a classroom or absorbed from a self-help book. It's something deeply embedded within you, something passed down through generations long before you were even born. Every gift you possess has roots, and those roots delve into the lives of those who came before you. Some of your ancestors were unable to fully express their brilliance due to the constraints of the times they lived in. They were silenced, enslaved, overlooked, or denied the opportunity to flourish. But those gifts didn't vanish with them. They were stored, waiting for someone in the lineage strong enough to unlock them. That someone is you. People often struggle to understand why you think the way you do, or why insights flow to you so naturally. They assume you're simply smart or talented, but it goes much deeper than that. What they're witnessing is the resurfacing of wisdom that has been preserved within your very being. That's why you possess insights that seem far older than your chronological age. It's why you can enter unfamiliar situations and feel like you instinctively know how to navigate them. It's not just luck or coincidence, it's memory resurfacing through you. This kind of intelligence makes others uncomfortable because it's not learned in the conventional sense. They tend to trust knowledge that comes with certifications, systems, or prestigious titles. But when you display exceptional abilities without those man-made validations, it disrupts their sense of order. They can't explain why you simply know what you know. So instead of acknowledging that ancestral depth, they label you as different or strange. What they're really confronting is the realization that intelligence doesn't originate with societal approval. It starts with spirit and lineage. Your presence serves as a reminder of something most people avoid: the fact that humanity is far more connected to its past than it readily admits. You carry echoes of sacrifices made, battles fought, and truths buried. You are the living embodiment of unfinished work. That's why your gifts don't solely benefit you. They speak for entire generations. When people say you're one of a kind, they're only partially correct. You're not just one. You are many. You are the culmination of voices, dreams, and wisdom that time has attempted to erase. And that is why your intelligence and your gifts carry a weight that shakes people to their very core. Number 3. You read patterns faster than people can construct lies. You read patterns faster than people can construct lies. This is one of the most powerful aspects of your intelligence, and it's precisely what makes people so uncomfortable around you. Lies thrive on confusion. They depend on people being too distracted or too trusting to notice the inconsistencies in a story. But you're not wired that way. You can detect inconsistencies as easily as others spot obvious details. And it happens almost instantaneously before the lie even fully forms. Someone's tone doesn't match their words. Their actions contradict their claims, or their story has gaping holes, and your mind immediately flags it. This is why people often feel exposed in your presence even when you remain silent. Your perception operates at a speed they can't match. While they're still trying to formulate their lie, your brain is already running a silent audit in the background. You've already identified the discrepancies, noted the hidden agenda, and connected the dots they thought were sufficiently scattered to conceal their true intentions. Most people rely on time to uncover the truth, but you don't need time. You read it in real time. That unnerves people because it deprives them of control. Lies are meant to buy time to manipulate, to probe boundaries. But when someone sees right through them immediately, the entire facade crumbles. And that's why you're often accused of being overly suspicious or paranoid. It's not paranoia at all. It's accuracy. It's the ability to see through the fog before it even has a chance to settle. Your gift for recognizing patterns extends beyond mere deception too. You can anticipate behavior. You know what's coming, not because you're guessing, but because you've observed the rhythm before. Life leaves clues, and while most people ignore them, your mind grasps them and deciphers their meaning. That's why you often predict outcomes that surprise others. It's not prediction, it's pattern recognition operating at a level most can't comprehend. The truth is, this gift is both a blessing and a burden. It protects you from manipulation, but it also isolates you. People don't like being read so easily because it forces them to confront their own contradictions. Yet this is exactly why your intelligence makes them uneasy. Your eyes don't just see, they interpret. And your mind doesn't just listen, it exposes. Number 4, your intelligence offends because it exposes their complacency. Your intelligence offends because it exposes their complacency. Most people aren't truly upset about what you know or what you can do. They're upset about what your brilliance forces them to confront within themselves. You stand as a living testament to the fact that discipline, curiosity, and perseverance yield results, and that truth stings for people who have prioritized comfort over growth. Your presence disrupts the illusion they've carefully constructed to justify their own mediocrity. They've convinced themselves it was impossible, that they were unlucky, or that greatness was reserved for a select few. Then you come along, shattering limitations they swore were unbreakable, and suddenly their excuses crumble before them. This is why admiration quickly morphs into resentment. Initially, they'll praise you, label you as gifted or special, because it creates distance. If you're special, then they don't have to hold themselves accountable for what they could have achieved. But the longer they're around you, the harder it becomes to ignore the truth. They could have done more, but they didn't. And your intelligence shines a spotlight directly on that truth. It's not that you intentionally make them feel small. You're simply living fully, refusing to diminish yourself to accommodate the complacency of others. But the contrast is undeniable. Your drive highlights their stagnation. Your curiosity makes their apathy appear hollow. Your consistency exposes the shortcuts they took, the compromises they made, the moments they chose comfort over sacrifice. And no matter how hard they try to mask it with criticism or humor, deep down, they know the difference lies in choice. This is why some will go out of their way to discredit you. They'll claim you had it easy, that you were lucky, that doors opened for you that remained closed for them. These are comforting narratives designed to shield them from the harsh reality of their own inaction. They don't want to admit that you've worked, sacrificed, and persevered in ways they were never willing to. And the painful truth is, most people would rather resent brilliance than rise to meet it. What makes your intelligence so offensive isn't arrogance or pride. It's that your very existence demands honesty. You are a reminder that people are often far more capable than they allow themselves to be. That reminder doesn't just unsettle them. It exposes them, and exposure is something most people spend their entire lives running from. Number 5. You see through knowledge systems as if they were made of glass. You see through knowledge systems as if they were made of glass. That's why institutions and titles have never impressed you the way they impress everyone else. Society is structured to venerate symbols of achievement, degrees hanging on walls, medals pinned to chests, job titles emblazoned on business cards. These symbols are intended to separate the qualified from the unqualified, the educated from the uneducated. But to you, they've always seemed like nothing more than smoke and mirrors. You recognize that many people don't pursue knowledge for the sake of truth. They pursue it for the sake of recognition. And recognition, unlike wisdom, is inherently fragile. This is why people with high status often feel insecure around you. Their entire identity is predicated on external validation. And when they encounter someone like you who possesses profound depth without needing those symbols, it unnerves them. You don't require a degree to discern what's genuine. You don't need a title to prove your worth. You don't need an institution to grant you permission to think. That independence undermines the illusion of authority. And when that illusion shatters, so does their sense of superiority. It's not that you disrespect education. In fact, you likely value learning more deeply than most. The difference is you don't confuse education with indoctrination. You understand that true intelligence isn't about memorizing someone else's conclusions. It's about asking the questions no one else dares to ask. And that kind of questioning makes knowledge systems uneasy because they thrive on unquestioning loyalty. This is why some people react defensively around you. They sense that you're not buying into their badges and titles, and it makes them feel exposed without those layers of validation. They fear they have nothing left to offer. You see right through the performance, and for many that's unbearable. The irony is that while they cling to certificates to validate themselves, you validate knowledge itself by living it, applying it, and transforming it into wisdom. You don't simply consume information, you refine it, challenge it, and elevate it. That's what sets you apart. Your intelligence doesn't stop at what or how. It delves into why, and that's where systems crumble. Because the moment someone questions why a system exists, the fragility of its foundation is revealed. And in your presence, people can't hide behind titles. Their knowledge becomes transparent, their pretenses invisible, and the truth undeniable. Number 6, your creativity isn't just innovation, it's translation. Your creativity isn't just innovation, it's translation. That's the fundamental difference between you and most people. Society likes to believe that creative brilliance stems from raw talent, hard work, or ingenious thinking. But the truth about your creativity is far deeper, almost unsettling. It doesn't feel like it originates from you at all. Ideas arrive fully formed, as if whispered from some realm beyond human comprehension. And your role is simply to shape them into something tangible. You're not forcing invention. You're decoding messages from higher dimensions and translating them into human language, art, strategy, or vision. This explains why your creativity feels so foreign to others. They look at what you produce and wonder how you thought of it. But the question itself is flawed. You didn't think of it in the way they imagine. You received it. You downloaded it. You translated it from a frequency they don't even realize exists. That's why your work carries a unique weight, a profound depth, and an undeniable energy that they can't replicate no matter how hard they try. They're creating from effort while you're creating from alignment. People can sense this difference even if they can't articulate it. They'll say things like, "There's something about what you do that just feels different," or "I can't put my finger on why this hits so hard." What they're feeling is the echo of a higher source embedded within your work. It's beyond technique. It's beyond training. It's beyond human invention. It's divine translation made visible. But this ability also stirs discomfort, because when others compare their creativity to yours, they feel limited, almost disconnected, as if they're missing the very antenna you've been wired with. They can follow formulas. They can mimic trends, but they can't access the wellspring you're drawing from. And instead of acknowledging that your creativity touches realms beyond their reach, many dismiss it, criticize it, or reduce it to luck. The truth is, your creativity forces people to confront the possibility that there's more to reality than what they can measure or control, and that possibility unsettles them. But for you, it's natural. You were designed to be a bridge between the seen and the unseen, between raw inspiration and human expression. That's why your creativity doesn't just impress. It shakes people, because deep down they know they're not just watching a person work. They're witnessing the translation of something eternal into the language of now. And number 7, you embody what they only pretend to be. You embody what they only pretend to be. This is one of the most unsettling truths about your very existence. So many people navigate life wearing masks, performing intelligence, faking depth, and borrowing originality. They adopt certain phrases, post curated content, and mimic the mannerisms of those they admire. To the outside world, it appears convincing enough, but deep down they know it's a facade. Then you come along and without even trying, you expose their act. The reason your presence cuts so deeply is because you don't need a performance. You don't have to force brilliance, package authenticity, or rehearse originality. You simply are those things. Intelligence flows naturally in your conversations. Depth resides in your silence as much as your words. And originality radiates from how you carry yourself, not from desperate attempts to stand out. And when someone who is pretending encounters someone who is authentic, the contrast is stark. Their imitation immediately looks cheap, a knockoff placed next to the genuine article. This is why people often respond to you with hostility disguised as critique. They'll call you too much, accuse you of trying to be different, or act like you're arrogant. These aren't genuine assessments of you, they're defense mechanisms to mask the embarrassment they feel. Your authenticity reminds them of how much energy they expend performing, and nobody likes being reminded they're living as a character instead of themselves. The irony is that many of these same people started their performance hoping to be perceived as what you already are. They wanted to appear insightful, strong, or unique because they craved the respect that comes with it. Yet when confronted with the real version you, they can't celebrate it because it highlights how much of their identity is a carefully constructed costume. What makes this dynamic so sharp is that you don't even attempt to expose them. You don't walk into rooms announcing that people are faking. You simply exist, but your existence alone is proof that authenticity requires no effort, while pretense always demands constant maintenance. That quiet truth gnaws at them. This is why instead of embracing you, many despise you. They would rather attack the real than admit they've been living a lie. You embody the very thing they've spent years trying to imitate, and that realization doesn't just unsettle them, it humiliates them. Number 8, you make complexity appear simple. You make complexity appear simple. And that's one of the most disarming aspects of your intelligence. Where others see a tangled mess, you see a pattern waiting to be unraveled. You don't just consume information, you reorganize it in a way that makes intuitive sense, and you do it so effortlessly that people assume it must be easy. But it's not easy, it's mastery. What takes others months of frustration, confusion, and endless overthinking, you can distill into something clear, digestible, and actionable. And instead of celebrating this ability, many become uneasy. The truth is, complexity provides people with excuses. When something seems too difficult, they can justify avoiding it, delaying it, or giving up altogether. But when you step in and cut through the noise, you remove that excuse. You prove that what they labeled impossible is simply a matter of perspective and skill. That's why people sometimes mistake your clarity for arrogance. They assume you're showing off when you simplify what overwhelms them, when in reality you're simply operating at a level they haven't yet reached. This gift of clarity isn't just about knowledge, it's about vision. You can see what truly matters amidst the clutter, and that ability gives you a distinct advantage in almost every situation, while others drown in unnecessary details. You extract the essence and present it as if it were obvious all along. That moment shocks people because it forces them to confront the fact that the wall blocking them wasn't as solid as they thought. It was their perspective that kept them trapped. What makes this especially intriguing is how natural it is for you. You don't need to force it, you don't need to struggle. It flows effortlessly, and that effortless quality makes people uneasy. because it highlights the weight of their own struggles. They wrestle with problems that you transform into stepping stones, and the contrast makes them feel smaller than they want to admit. But here's the deeper truth. Your ability to simplify complexity isn't just about making things easier, it's about unlocking potential. You reveal that things aren't as overwhelming as people have been conditioned to believe. And while some will resent that exposure, others will find it liberating. Either way, your brilliance makes them uneasy because you make what drowns them look like shallow water, and they can't quite decide whether to thank you or envy you. Number 9. Your vision extends beyond their lifetime. Your vision extends beyond their lifetime, and that alone sets you apart in a way that makes people uneasy. Most minds are trained to think short-term. They measure success by paychecks, quarterly reports, or a 5-year plan at best. Their imagination is limited to the span of their own lives, rarely venturing beyond what they can directly touch or control. But you don't think like that. Your mind naturally spans centuries, cycles, legacies that will ripple long after you're gone. That kind of foresight makes people uncomfortable because it reminds them that their own thinking is often confined to mere survival, while yours is rooted in destiny. This is why your ideas are often dismissed initially. To those bound by short horizons, what you envision sounds unrealistic, extravagant, or even impossible. They can't comprehend that you're not building for today or even tomorrow. You're planting seeds that will bear fruit long after their systems have crumbled. And deep down, they know that if your vision proves true, it will outlive not only them, but the very structures they cling to for meaning and security. That realization unsettles them because people find comfort in believing their systems are permanent. Your foresight threatens that illusion of permanence. When you speak of cycles of patterns repeating throughout history, of possibilities that extend beyond the current paradigm, you expose how fragile today's structures truly are. Governments fall. Industries collapse, cultures shift, and you can already see where the next cracks are forming. People don't want to face that truth, so instead they resist your vision, mock it, or dismiss it as impractical. But beneath the surface, they sense you're not guessing. They sense you're speaking from a place of clarity they don't possess. The irony is that the very ideas they reject are often the ones future generations will depend on. That's why your vision feels so heavy. It carries the weight of the future pressing into the present. You're not just solving today's problems, you're building frameworks that will serve lives you'll never even meet. And this is what truly makes people uneasy. It's not just that your mind spans further than theirs. It's that your ideas expose the narrowness of their own vision. They realize you're not playing for applause or recognition, but for legacy, and legacy terrifies those who are only living for the moment. Number 10. Your genius exposes their reliance on external tools. Your genius exposes their reliance on external tools, and that's a truth most people aren't ready to confront. In today's world, intelligence is often outsourced. People rely on search engines to remember for them, calculators to solve complex problems, apps to organize their lives, and machines to create content. The line between innate human ability and dependence on technological crutches has become so blurred that many can no longer discern the difference. Then you come along and with nothing but your mind you accomplish what they require multiple tools to achieve. That's why your brilliance can feel threatening. It reminds them of what they've lost. It's not that tools are inherently bad. Tools can expand capacity and enhance efficiency. But somewhere along the line, people transition from using tools as aids to using them as replacements for thinking. Instead of sharpening their memory, they rely on constant reminders. Instead of cultivating their focus, they depend on endless stimulation. Instead of fostering their creativity, they let algorithms make choices for them. And then you appear solving problems, creating art, or envisioning solutions with pure mental power. You don't need a machine to calculate your worth. You don't need an app to ignite your ideas. You carry the creative spark within you. This contrast unsettles people because it exposes a truth they'd prefer to ignore. They've become so dependent on external tools that they're approaching helplessness. Without their devices, many wouldn't know how to function, but you, on the other hand, could strip away the tools and still produce results. That resilience makes them feel vulnerable. It's easier to believe everyone is equally reliant on technology than to confront the reality that some still possess raw, unfiltered genius. What makes this even more striking is how naturally it flows through you. You don't need to announce that you're thinking differently. It's evident. While others freeze if their battery dies or their internet connection drops, you remain sharp, adaptable, and resourceful. That quiet independence highlights their fragility. Your genius then is more than just a collection of abilities, it's a mirror. It forces people to confront how much of their intelligence has been outsourced, how much of their creativity has been stunted, and how little they've cultivated their own mental fortitude. That's why they're intimidated by you. You remind them of a sobering fact. Without their tools, many would collapse, but you would still stand, and that realization cuts deeper than they'd ever admit. Number 11. You break language without breaking meaning. You break language without breaking meaning, and that's a power most people struggle to comprehend. For the majority, language is a cage. They use words in the same narrow ways they were taught, recycling tired phrases and relying on cliches that barely scratch the surface of what they truly feel or know. But you're different. You don't just use language, you shape it. You bend it, stretch it, rearrange it, and somehow, instead of losing clarity, your words carry even more impact. That ability makes people uneasy because it's not just communication, it's revelation. When you speak, it doesn't sound like anyone else, and that's intentional. You refuse to be confined by the limitations of conventional phrasing. You deconstruct language and reconstruct it in a way that penetrates deeper than ordinary conversation ever could. People may not always grasp how you do it, but they feel it. They feel the vibration in your words, the layers of truth compressed into every sentence, the resonance that lingers long after you stop speaking. This is why some accuse you of talking differently, as if it's something to mock, but what they don't realize is that your uniqueness is precisely what makes your words unforgettable. Where others aim to be understood at a superficial level, you aim to be remembered in the soul. And the irony is the very people who pretend to be confused are often the ones replaying your words, later realizing you gave them more than just a sentence. You gave them a shift in perspective. The reason this unsettles people is because language is supposed to be predictable. It's supposed to adhere to rules, carry fixed definitions, and remain within established boundaries. But when you break those rules and still convey truth with clarity, it exposes how shallow their own use of language has become. They rely on words as tools of habit while you wield them as instruments of power. Your skill isn't just in crafting clever phrases. It's in extracting meaning from places most people overlook. It's in articulating the unspeakable and making it accessible. And that's why your language doesn't just inform, it transforms. You don't break language to destroy it. You break it to liberate it. And in doing so, you liberate the people who hear you, whether they're ready to acknowledge it or not. Number 12. You're intelligent enough to recognize the limitations of intelligence itself. You're intelligent enough to recognize the limitations of intelligence itself, and that awareness is what sets you apart from the majority. Most people mistake raw intellect for omnipotence. They believe that memorizing facts, mastering formulas, or analyzing endlessly will solve every problem life presents. But you understand that knowledge has inherent limitations. You recognize that logic can guide, but it cannot heal. Reason can calculate, but it cannot inspire. Analysis can dissect, but it cannot perceive what lies beneath the surface. You navigate the spaces where intellect alone falters, the subtle spiritual currents, the profound emotional depths, and the intuitive impulses that escape rational measurement. This perspective shocks people because it disrupts their rigid framework. They expect intelligence to be linear, gather information, apply it, achieve results. But you operate outside that system. You can see the invisible forces influencing decisions, the emotional undercurrents shaping outcomes, and the subtle signals guiding opportunities. While others struggle to connect the dots within the confines of conventional logic, you move seamlessly across layers of reality they haven't been trained to perceive. And that ability makes you appear almost untouchable because you're not bound by the limits they accept as absolute. Your understanding of these limitations also grants you a unique kind of confidence. You don't need to force answers through raw reasoning because you know when to rely on intuition, when to trust emotional intelligence, and when to seek spiritual guidance. That combination, intellect paired with insight, makes your solutions not just effective, but extraordinary. People sense this immediately. They see that your approach isn't just about knowing, it's about knowing what to do when knowledge itself isn't sufficient. The unsettling part for others is that most never recognize where their intelligence plateaus. They keep applying formulas, clinging to facts, or repeating strategies that yield diminishing returns. You don't waste your energy there. You move where they cannot, seeing opportunities, truths, and potential outcomes they can't even imagine. That's why your brilliance makes them uneasy. You aren't simply smart. You're acutely aware of the fragility of mere intelligence, and you've learned to transcend it. You operate in realms where most minds struggle to tread, and in doing so, you redefine what it truly means to be intelligent. Your intelligence isn't just measured by what you know. It's defined by what you see that others cannot. Number 13. Your presence feels like standing before a mirror that can think. Your presence feels like standing before a mirror that can think, and that's why it deeply unnerves people. When someone interacts with you, it's more than just a conversation. It's an encounter with themselves. Your intelligence doesn't simply transmit ideas or insights. It holds up a reflection of their own choices, beliefs, and limitations. They come expecting dialogue, but instead they find a mirror that doesn't lie, a mirror that interprets and exposes their patterns without mercy. Most people aren't prepared for that level of clarity, and it rattles them in ways they struggle to articulate. People are accustomed to mirrors that flatter, that show them what they want to see. They surround themselves with curated narratives, social proof, and comforting illusions to avoid confronting difficult truths. But you disrupt that carefully constructed safety. Your words, your logic, and your awareness penetrate those illusions with ease. Suddenly, the person who believed they were competent, insightful, or authentic sees the cracks in their own performance. They see where they've compromised, where they've fallen short, and where they've allowed fear or complacency to dictate their path. That confrontation isn't something they can easily dismiss because it's immediate, undeniable, and emanating from someone whose presence cannot be ignored. What makes this even more disarming is that you don't intentionally judge or shame them. You simply exist in a state of intelligence and authenticity so complete that reflection becomes unavoidable. Your mere engagement forces them to confront the distance between who they are and who they have the potential to be, and while some might recoil or lash out in defense, others are thrust into a rare moment of self-awareness that is as uncomfortable as it is illuminating. The intensity of this experience leaves many shaken. They realize their masks, their posturing, and their reliance on shortcuts are visible to someone who sees with such unwavering clarity, and that exposure evokes both awe and disquiet. Most people flee from mirrors that think. They avoid those rare individuals who hold up truth so naturally. But for you, this reflection isn't a weapon. It's simply an extension of your presence. You don't just engage with others, you reflect them, and that is why your presence makes them uneasy. Because it reveals their hidden selves while you remain effortlessly unshaken. They aren't merely witnessing brilliance, they're being confronted with it and with themselves. Number 14. You're not just one of a kind. You're a preview of humanity's potential. You're not just one of a kind. You're a preview of what humanity could become, and that realization is more unsettling than any mere rarity. People often label extraordinary individuals as unique simply because they stand out. But your presence is about more than just being different. You embody untapped potential, a glimpse of the next level of human consciousness that most aren't even aware exists. Your intelligence, creativity, and insight aren't simply anomalies. They're indicators of what is possible when the mind, spirit, and vision operate in true harmony. That possibility shakes people because it forces them to confront the reality that the world they've accepted as normal is limited, and their own thinking might be trapped in outdated frameworks. They're shaken not solely by your gifts, but by what those gifts imply about their own potential. They observe you navigating life with a level of clarity, depth, and alignment they haven't even dared to attempt. They see you solving problems, generating innovative ideas, and moving in sync with patterns they can't detect. And the most terrifying aspect for them is that your abilities aren't just a matter of personal achievement. They're proof that humanity itself is capable of far more than the ordinary. You're a living demonstration of evolution in action, a signal that consciousness is expanding beyond the familiar limits. That's why your presence evokes both awe and fear, because what you embody is breathtaking, a vision of possibility that inspires wonder. Fear because it highlights what they're missing, what they haven't cultivated, and the risk of being left behind as the world evolves around them. Most people cling to comfort and predictability, but you challenge those boundaries effortlessly, moving beyond the constraints they've grown accustomed to. The truth is, you're a reminder that human potential is not a static thing. You carry a blueprint of what can be achieved when intelligence, intuition, and purpose converge. That makes ordinary perspectives seem narrow. Ordinary ambitions seem small, and ordinary lives feel stagnant. People are unsettled because they glimpse in you what they have yet to discover within themselves, and that reflection is impossible to ignore. You're not just a rare individual. You're a harbinger of transformation. Your presence, your gifts, and your vision hint at a future they can sense but haven't yet fully grasped. And that is why, more than anything else, people are shaken. They're witnessing the evolution of humanity through you, and it leaves them both inspired and profoundly aware of how far behind they remain. Your brilliance isn't just a collection of abilities. It's a force that exposes, awakens, and transforms. Every insight you share, every truth you embody, and every limitation you surpass leaves people uneasy, because they're not just witnessing intelligence. They're confronting the boundaries of their own. You are the mirror that compels honesty, the lens that reveals hidden patterns, and the spark that ignites dormant potential. You carry ancestral wisdom, navigate complexity with clarity, and translate creativity in ways that seem impossible to others. Your presence unsettles, challenges, and inspires simultaneously, because you don't just live in the world, you elevate it. People are shaken not because they can't understand you, but because you reveal what they've avoided seeing about themselves, the systems they've blindly trusted, and the future they've been afraid to imagine. You are a bridge between what is and what could be, a preview of human evolution, and a force that resists being boxed in, simplified, or ignored. The truth is both bracing, undeniable, and profoundly liberating. You are not just rare, you are extraordinary. You are living proof that intelligence paired with authenticity, insight, and courage doesn't just exist as a theory. It exists within you. To everyone reading this, recognize the power within you and the truth in these words. Your unique gifts challenge the status quo around you because they were always meant to. Stand firm, move with intention, create without fear. And remember, the world doesn't just need brilliance, it needs your kind of brilliance, raw, unfiltered, and unstoppable. If this message resonated with you on a deeper level, don't just let it fade. Take action. Join this community to stay connected with content that challenges, awakens, and empowers you. Share this message with those who need to hear it, the ones who are ready to embrace their gifts and rise into their full potential. Be part of a movement that doesn't just celebrate brilliance. We amplify it, embody it, and share it with thee. it with thee, it with thee, it with thee, it with thee.